George has his day, and so does Abe. Greetings, R. Frederick Riddle here with another episode of Christian News and Views. By the way, this is episode 81. We're moving right along. Today is President's Day, and there's an article here in the paper about it, and I'm going to start out with that, and then I'm going to give my own application and opinion on the whole matter. It's kind of the way we celebrate the presidents is kind of interesting to say the least. Well, let's just read this. Okay, so here we are. Is President's Day the most confusing holiday in the United States? States seem to have as many names for it and ideas about whom to honor as there have been presidents. The federal government doesn't even recognize Monday as President's Day. It's officially Washington's birthday, honoring the first president and the original American yardstick for measuring greatness. The holiday hasn't been celebrated on Washington's actual birthday of February 22 or any other president's birthday for more than 50 years. President's Day became the popular name after the holiday was fixed to a Monday. The result is a jumble causing some people to yearn for the holiday to just celebrate Washington again. The concept of President's Day is a confusing mishmash of ideas. Hunter Abell, a Republican state legislator from Washington State, said recently, "By celebrating all the presidents, I believe that we inadvertently celebrate none." And that brings me to my opinion on this whole thing. So, I'm one of these that, how'd they say this? It's official, let's see. Oh, here we are. The result is a jumble causing some people to yearn for the holiday just to celebrate Washington again. I guess I'm in that column. I never did like the idea of doing away with presidents' birthdays. I think every one of them should have their own birthday, and some do. George Washington, in some respects, is probably the greatest president we ever had. What did he accomplish to earn that? He became the first president. We judge everybody else since him by him. We also judge by Abraham Lincoln. But we've had some good presidents. Some not so good, but we've had some good, even great presidents. We have one now that history is going to probably treat a whole lot better than the media does. I think he's going to go down as a very good, maybe even a great president. But George Washington has a special place, in my opinion. He has a special place in our history because of the fact he was the first one. Not only that, you say, well, what did he do to earn it? Well, how about the fact that he, as general, the commanding chief, before he ever became president, he was the one who guided and directed some very green troops to go against a very mature, very well skilled, and generaled army, the English army. And not only fought them to a stalemate, but eventually actually won the war. And General Washington, his example, his leadership, he had to learn while on the job because prior to that, he was never, I don't think he ever reached the title of a general prior to that. We are aware of him in the French and Indian War, and he was an officer, but one of the lower officers, and he only got the job of taking, I think it was General Braddock, but whoever, I forget who the general was that got killed, and so leadership fell to Washington. And it was already the defeat was his job then was to um, not so much to win that battle as it was to keep his troops intact and eventually get them out of there safely. He should have died in that battle. His cloak that he wore was riddled with bullets, bullet holes, and maybe probably bullets themselves. But he was never touched. Talk about armor. That coat must have been some special armor. To be honest with you, I think it was the Lord. The Lord protected him. And that's not me by myself. Many people down through the ages, down through the years ever since then, have felt that God's protecting hand was on George Washington. George Washington set the standard. When he took over as president, he was not somebody trying to do it for his own ego. They wanted to make him a king, and he refused that. The idea of a president, I think he was probably a more of a reluctant president. He doesn't really want to be president, but once he stepped into that role, he took some very strong stands. He stood strong, and he set the standard by which presidents ever since then have been compared with. And so on that issue alone, he is a great and one of the greatest. And I think, even though Abe Lincoln kept the Union together during the Civil War, it was George Washington because he was the first. You can't overestimate that. He's the one that set the standard. He's the one that started it all. And I just don't think you can overestimate the impact that that has had on history. And so for that reason alone, he deserves a day of his own. Preferably his actual birthday, which is in February. So today is the 17th. His birthday is February 22nd. In fact, on my calendar I'm looking at right here, it's all the same week. Monday is President's Day, and Saturday will be Washington's birthday. But we don't celebrate it anymore. It is sort of on the calendar, but there's no national celebration, no day off, no parades or anything like that. Excuse me. So, the thing is, in my opinion, that George Washington deserves a day of his own. So does Abraham Lincoln. I think of other great presidents that have been down the road. I personally believe this. Every president that we have had should have their own birthday listed, a day in which they are celebrated. Now, does that mean it should be a holiday, a national holiday? Not necessarily. But we should recognize it. Like on this calendar, Washington's birthday is recognized. Well, do we recognize David Eisenhower? He was the president when I was a young man, a child actually growing up. And in my opinion, he was one of the great presidents. He was a great general, and then he was a great president. He was a president during peacetime, but that's another thing you can't overestimate. Russia was starting to grow at that time, Soviet Union. And they were already started. And they were already in existence during World War II. So he guided the nation. If you've ever read, I don't know if you've ever read the book, I think it's called The Hidden Hand, something like that. How he guided the country during some very difficult times. They were peaceful, but with all the things coming up in the world, he had to guide the nation through that. And I think he did a pretty credible job. What about Kennedy? He was here only a short time. He got assassinated, But in that short time, he also provided some leadership. And if we were to be honest with him, he's closer to us conservatives today than he is to the Democratic Party today. Um, they left him in the dust, so to speak. Um, uh, so I don't know where he would rate on the scale of greatness, but he was a good president. Uh, Ronald Reagan, I think he's up on in the great level. Um, there was an assassination attempt against him, and he brought the Soviet Union to their knees, and because of his stand, the Soviet Union collapsed. He played a big role in their collapse, anyhow. And so there's different things there that mark him as a great president, one of the greatest. Donald Trump, in his first term, did some things that were needful, and he had to restore some things that because of liberals and so forth and their policies had damaged our country's reputation. We were being taken advantage of. He put a stop to all that, but then he was out, and now he's back, and he has a chance to complete that. First of all, he's got to undo, and he's already made some big steps in undoing a lot of what Biden did. I think it's too soon. I know a lot of people around him want to call him the greatest president ever. That's something only history can determine. But I think he's going to go down as a very good, solid, and maybe even a great president. And whether he becomes the greatest president or not, like I said, that's too early to tell on that. But the thing is this: every president who served should be honored. Even today, with all the money that can be made when you hold public office, people give up a lot to become the president of the United States. Donald Trump is a billionaire. He's not going to he might make millions. Some people who have been in that office have come out pretty good financially. But generally speaking, it requires sacrifice. They have to step away from their normal business activities and put it like in a trust or somebody else to handle it. But through our whole history is that presidents, men who have taken time off from their chosen careers, whatever they're doing, to devote to this country because they love the country. And I don't care what your opinion of Donald Trump is. I don't think that you can truly say that he does not love his country. Everything he has done has been out of love of country. People make all sorts of comments about him, most of which are fabricated, untrue, hateful. But it's funny part about that, before he ever chose to become the president the first time around, he was popular with the Republicans and Democrats, especially around election time. Everybody wanted his approval. They wanted him to come down on their side. They wanted money, for one thing, and he was more than willing to give money. So people changed as soon as he declared that he was going to run for the Republican presidential nomination. Immediately, they started attacking him. But that's another story. But the thing is this, that people, and there's women who also are wanting to be president. And there are some out there who actually are qualified. Now, some of those who have run, including recently, are not qualified in any sense of the word. But there are other women who out there who are. They love the country. They love, and they have some good ideas. And I'm not just talking about Republican women. There are women on both sides who could be capable presidents. Only time will tell. I believe there's going to come a day when a woman will be elected. Will she be a good president? Well, it's the same question mark on her as is on all men. Will that person be a good president? When we vote for somebody, we are making a statement, if you will, a vote of confidence in that person, that person will be the kind of president we want that person to be. And that's true with Donald Trump, and that is true with every president we've ever had. Some live up to that expectation, and some don't. Most have, I think, at least to a minimal standard. There have been a few who weren't all that noticeable. But the thing is that this is something that we need to honor the men, and in the future, women, who attain the highest office in the land. It's still arguably the most important job in the entire world. And so, from a purely secular viewpoint, I think that we should always honor our presidents and vice presidents. We should also honor those who serve in Congress and the Senate. But the president is something special. The president is the poster boy, and again, in the future, poster woman, poster girl, of the United States. It's when people see their picture, whatever, they're going to think of the United States, good or bad. So it's a job that is high profile. It is a job with high expectations. It demands a lot of character. It demands something of people of being willing to be sacrificed. Again, I used Donald Trump. When he first was president, one of the things he did was he didn't need the salary, so what he did is he simply took his salary that he was getting as president and he would disperse it to other people. That was unheard of. I've never heard of any president ever doing that before or since, for that matter. And so that's something that sets a new expectation. I think he's probably going to do something similar to that again. Simply because, well, one, he doesn't need the money, but number two is a very it's not a demand, it's not a expectation, but he has, I think he has risen to the level here, being willing to give up his salary to other people. And it just says something about his character. And that is something that in the future, other presidents, whether male or female, they're going to be, that's one of the things that's going to be looked at is, if you don't need the money, why are you taking it? And they're going to make it sound like it's a criteria that they have to have. It's not. It never was before. But Trump established that without even really trying. He was simply making a decision on his own, was his to make, and he made it. So, but that is, again, a sign of, could be, as we look back in the future, a sign of greatness. And so what we need to do is take time to thank the good Lord for giving this country good men to serve, and in the future, good women to serve. Why? Because God is the one who allows it. He allows the good and the bad. But in some cases, I believe he actually intercedes. George Washington, we already established that he was God's protecting hand was about him. God protected him and put him in office, not only to win the war, but then to put him in the office as president, the first president. I think that Abe Lincoln is another one that God chose. Unlikely at the time. And if we had somebody like him now, it'd probably still be unlikely because he was self-educated. He was a lawyer, but he was not a national figure at first. And he started running for office. That made him a national figure. But if God hadn't interceded, I'm not so sure he would have made it to be president of the United States, simply because what we call nowadays brand. people didn't know who Abraham Lincoln was for the most part. And so he had his debates with Douglas, and Douglas was a very powerful, high-profile person who most people, if they were betting, probably would have put their money on him. But Abe Lincoln became the president, and that is to the United States benefited because of that. And so sometimes God intercedes. Sometimes he just lets it play out. But he's very active and watches over us. We are still to this day enjoying some of the blessings because we've had Christians in all areas of our government. Nowadays, being a Christian anywhere in any place in the government is discouraged, looked down upon, and people they're insulted and things of this nature. But I do believe that God's still watching over us. We have not gone. Some people argue that we have lost our greatness, that we are no longer a Christian nation. I don't agree with that. I think there's still a good, solid group of Christians. Whether we're in the majority or not, I don't know. But I do believe that there's a lot of Christians, and they're praying for the government. They're praying for our leaders, as we all should. All Christians should be praying for them. And there's many Christians who are still running for offices, and that is good. It will be a sad day if Christians in general turn away from their government. Then we will cease to be a Christian nation. So that's pretty much my opinion today. I'm thinking that it's very important that we honor our presidents, and I personally would like to see George Washington's birthday honored like it once was. He was the first. In that way, he's one of the greatest for sure. So that's it for today. I hope and pray that you have a great day, and that you remember George Washington, and since it's President's Day, all our presidents, honor them for their sacrifice, their willingness to set aside their personal lives and dedicate their lives for a short time as President of the United States of America. You have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.